Guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my labor and delivery story. My daughter, her name is Brinley, and she will be 5 months in a few days. And I'm finally just now filming this video. I actually filmed this video last week, but I was literally in my PJs and I didn't have any makeup on. But then I played it back and I was like, we need some makeup, sister. But I never thought I would want to film one of these videos. I never watched any of these videos. My sister-in-law just had her baby. She had it like a couple weeks ago. Her experience was like picture perfect, and I want to make this video just to share my story. So let's start from the beginning. So I got induced at 39 weeks and 3 days. That's just how my OB did it. I did have epidural and I delivered vaginally, so I just feel like these videos need to start out like that. So the first trimester for me was absolutely horrible. I had severe nausea, vomiting, insomnia. I actually do have a video where I do talk about the first trimester and beginning of second trimester and everything I went through, and also coming off birth control and my experience with that was. So if you guys want to check it out, I'll put the link down below. The second trimester, didn't even feel pregnant. I worked out a lot. Third trimester was, I felt fine until I hit 35 weeks. Like, ask anybody I know. Like, my back hurt, my pelt, like everything hurt. So my induction date was November 29th of 2020. I had to be at the hospital at 5 a.m. I just want to also throw out something that happened to me because it plays such a huge role, I think, in the way everything happened. So I lost my mother 2 weeks before I gave birth to her. Yeah, my mom was my absolute soulmate. She was my everything, my world. And I was so excited to be a mom and to share this journey with her. I just want to throw that out there because those last like 2 weeks of my pregnancy were horrible. So on Sunday, November 28th, I woke up, my husband was at work. It was like I ate breakfast and then I went to the bathroom. I think it was around 10, and I looked in the toilet and I had lost my mucus plug. And then my husband comes home around noon and we go to Costco because I was getting induced the next day. We wanted to get everything we needed. But first we went to Starbucks. I got a large iced coffee. I've always drank that even when I'm pregnant. Yeah, so then after that, we went to Costco, went shopping. I was drinking my Starbucks, got Starbucks high. The second I sat in the truck, I felt like I was going to shit my pants. I got so freaking nauseous. It like hit me like a brick. I was like screaming at him the whole time to get home because I felt like I was going to explode. He floors it home. I just like run to the toilet. Nothing came out. Like I just like nothing happened. I was on the toilet for close to an hour, just like sweating, nauseous. So after I got off the toilet finally, he had to go back to work, so I just sat on the couch the rest of the day. So then I make dinner and I cannot eat anything. Like, I was just nauseous. I'm nervous about getting induced literally in a few hours. So I was like, whatever. I didn't even eat dinner. So I take a shower and I lay down for bed, and it's like 9:30. Then I lay down. Within a couple minutes, I feel like a warm fluid come out, and I run to the toilet and he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I think my water broke. So I get on the toilet and there's just like a bunch of blood. There was a bunch of clots. It was all over the floor, all in the toilet. I freaked out. I know what the bloody show is, but every time I looked up how much blood a bloody show shows, it's like just like a little spotting. But that's not what I had. I had like a lot of blood. My first thought was something's wrong with baby. Call the doctor, we're going to the hospital. My doctor made it very clear, very, very clear to not do anything unless we talk to him. But in that moment I was like, we are going to the hospital, honey. Pull my pants up, I wrap a towel around me. I'm like 2 minutes away, right, in the car. He's like trying to ask me what's going on, but I'm so worked up. And he's like, are you still bleeding? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, I need to know if you're still bleeding, because if you're bleeding, you're hemorrhaging. It's like, Heather, go home and tell me if you're still bleeding. Oh, I made hubby look. He's like, no, you're good. My doctor was like, okay, take a shower and try to calm down. I will literally see you in a few hours. And I take a shower, rinse off. I get out of the shower and like another trickle of blood comes out, but it was just like a little trickle. I put my clean clothes on and put a pad on. I think I slept for like an hour that night just because I was so worried about Brinley. I did feel her move. So I slept for like an hour. I got up at 3 because I was already awake. I tried to eat before I went to the hospital, but we leave around 4:30 to go to the hospital because we had to check in by 5. The hospital I went to is like 20 minutes by my house, and they specialize in labor and deliveries, so you know they were good. I was in my bed by 5:30, and hooked me up to Pitocin by, I think, like 7. So my doctor comes in at 8 to check me, goes to check how dilated I am and to break my water. He was trying for a couple minutes and said, okay, like, I guess your water like broke the night before, and like that's what happened. Just had the nurses write down that my water broke at 9:30 the previous night. They started checking my temp like religiously, and I did have a low grade fever of like, it ranged from like 99.5 to like 0.8. So with that, they gave me multiple rounds of antibiotics. So yeah, so my OB was like, I'll see you later. And I was like, okay. I started to have a few real powerful contractions. At 9, the anesthesiologist, but you know what I'm saying, the epidural dude. You could tell he was doing this for many years. He talked me through the whole thing. That also made it a lot better. And my husband was by my side the entire freaking time, which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, he came in at 9 and asked me if I knew how it worked, and I was like, no. And he talked me through the whole thing. He told me it would feel like a bee sting, which it did a few times. It really wasn't that bad. I think it took like 15 minutes or so. I did have a lot of problems with my blood pressure because fentanyl does lower your blood pressure. So I was having a lot of issues with that for like 2 hours. I was throwing up a lot. And eventually after like 2 hours, it like went away. My blood pressure kind of like remained the same. It just kept coming in, checking my temperature like crazy to make sure it didn't go up or whatever. But yeah, so fast forward to 2 o'clock. From, you know, 9 to 2 o'clock, they just kept coming in, repositioning me, checking my vitals, and that's basically what happened over that time span. So fast forward to 2 o'clock, nurse comes in and wanted to check me again and see how dilated I was. And she goes, your water's still intact. And I was like, really? So she calls my doctor again, and fast forward to 5 o'clock. Again, in those 3 hours, you know, they were coming in, repositioning me, taking my blood pressure. She called my doctor at 2 o'clock. He didn't come until 5 o'clock, and he's like trying to break in. He's like, it's broken. And she was like, no, not. So then he eventually breaks the rest of it, and they just determined that it partially broke the night before, because that's really what only can explain him not being able to break it. I don't know, just like, it was weird. And I did have a low grade fever, so it was like, why? Yeah, I think by 5 o'clock, I was 4 centimeters dilated. So my doctor left and said, I'll see you at 10 o'clock. By then you'll be good. And I'm like, 10 o'clock. So fast forward to like 7. I'm starting to feel a lot more pressure, and I was like getting more and more uncomfortable. And they come in and they wanted to do a practice push. So we did one practice push, and she was like, okay, like, you're good. I think around 7, I was 7 centimeters dilated. And we did the practice push, and again, I was just super uncomfortable. So 8 comes around, and all the nurses come in and we start pushing. After like 5 pushes, she was like, okay, stop pushing. It was just happening like really fast with every push, and my doctor like still was nowhere to be found. But it was so freaking painful to not push. For a couple contractions, I didn't push, but that's when I started to really feel it on my rectum. My sister-in-law told me she felt the labor like in her back. I didn't feel it in my back. I felt it in my rectum, which was super uncomfortable, but it was like 10 times more painful to not push when I had a contraction than to push with the contraction, you know what I mean? Girl, like, she is coming. So she got all the nurses in there, and I was pushing and pushing for like 30 minutes. It was really painful. I don't know if this is a common thing of your epidural to like not work when you're like at the end of it, but that shit did not work. So I'm pushing, and 4 minutes before Brinley comes out, my doctor comes in his orange Crocs, super mellow, puts a hand sanitizer on, takes off his coat, puts on gloves, and he's like, how are you? And I'm like, get this baby out of me. So at that point, when he came in, her head was out, like you could see the hair. I was in so much pain. Everybody was having those side conversations. If you have given birth and people are having those side conversations, like, shut the. So I gave a few pushes, and he was like, do you want this baby out? I said, yeah. And I pushed, and her head came out, and he told me to stop because she did have the cord wrapped around her neck. I stopped, and then he told me to push like a few more times, and I did, and boom, she came out. Ouch. I had a 2nd-degree tear, which considering I'm 120 pounds and 5'2", and she was almost 8 pounds, wasn't that bad. Yeah, so my husband cut the cord and Brinley was born at 9/21 on November 29th. She was 7 pounds, 12 ounces, and 9.5 inches long. Comes out. And they put her on my chest. I'm in shock, by the way. I was throwing up the whole time I was in labor. So much freaking pain. And they put her on my chest. She was blue. Not crying. I was like, the lady was like trying to rub her and I was like, she's blue. You can take her. They take her and put her in the little incubator thing. I started to hear like a little bit of cries, but I was so like what just freaking happened? I had a lot of hemorrhaging after. They were stimulating her and she was crying a little bit. My husband was there by her side the whole time. I'll put a picture right when she was born. She was blue. You'll see in the pictures, like look at her hand. She did end up in the NICU for the 3 days we were there. We left on Wednesday. She was there the whole time and she had transient tachypnea, which apparently is super, super common in newborns. So she was in the NICU on the CPAP for the first day. She did have a little bit of jaundice, but she was good enough to go home, obviously. My doctor put more lidocaine, made sure I didn't feel anything with the suturing. And then the shakes happened. So the shakes are just from your hormones just drastically dropping like that. And I had that for about an hour and I was nauseous. I kept throwing up and it was just not fun. And I was just in so much pain overall. And like, that's another thing. Like I see all these pictures on Instagram of these women eating like milkshakes and pizza and all this food like right after they give birth because you can't eat like when you're in labor. And I'm like, girl, I couldn't even eat for like another 12 hours. Like I was so nauseous and it was just horrible. And then we went to go see our baby for the first time. Like, I hate saying this, like I didn't even love her. I didn't feel anything towards her. This sounds horrible to say, but I just want y'all to know, like if you're about to give birth or you have and you felt like that, like just know it's okay. It sucks that I didn't have like a positive experience with that, but eventually got to hold her like a few hours later. I went back that Tuesday morning and I held her. I'll insert a picture of me holding her. It was just such a surreal moment to hold her for the first time because I was like, what is my life? Like, what the heck? The most painful thing was the fundal massage. That was like the most painful thing for like 12 hours. Like every 30 minutes after I gave birth, like people were coming in and I kept asking for it because it felt better for like 10 minutes after they did it. When they did it, it was so freaking painful, but like after they were done it felt better for a couple minutes, but then it just kept coming back. The next video I want to talk about everything, you know, after that. I don't know, I just like really want to share my experience, how difficult it was, because I don't know, I just like know so many women who just have such positive labor and delivery stories. They always talk about how much like they loved their child in that moment and how just overwhelmed with joy they had. I just want to share my story because that is not how I felt, and I love this girl so freaking much right now. Like I would do freaking anything for her, but like in the moment and those first couple weeks with her, like it was hard. I did have postpartum depression. It was really, really rough. But I mean, it was just a really, really hard time for me. And I think a huge thing was like losing my mom 2 weeks before this. Like it made it really difficult emotionally for me, and coming home from the hospital with her and just trying to grieve while also like adjusting to my new life. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Follow me on Instagram. I post literally me and Brinley all the time, and I will see you guys in my next video.